Serie A. Is it at its peak as it was from the late 80s to mid to late 90s? Nah. Is it just as entertaining as ever? Yeah. Is it just as crazy as ever? Yeah. And it's also perhaps the most unpredictable of the top 5 leagues. They built up their unpredictability after all those years of Juve winning. This is why Serie A has become one of my favorite leagues to watch, perhaps my absolute favorite. I watch them all, really, but the storylines that crop up, the competitive nature of it, the history of the sides, the drama and the controversies, the fact that 12 out of 20 sides changed their coach this summer, including 70% of the top 10 from last season. Italy has it all, and I'll give you just a little taste of that in this video, and give you something to get excited about if you aren't watching it already. I also watch the Premier League closely as I host a weekly show with Bleacher Report, aka the BR Football People, live in the Bleacher Report app every Thursday. So if you download the app, search Adrian RTV in the search bar, and I should come up. Then you can join me, ask questions, all of it every Thursday. All right. Let's start out naturally, or perhaps unnaturally, with a club whose Falconer had a workplace issue due to his prosthetic manhood. Of course, I'm talking about Lazio, who you'll remember their Falconer, this dude, caused a stir last season when he showed off his prosthetic penis on social media. Somewhat unbeknownst to him, it was supposed to only be shown to close friends, guys. Only his close friends. I actually have a picture with this guy. Let me see if I can find it. Well, he was essentially squatting at Lazio's training center until the very end of June of this year, despite being sacked back in January of this year. And with him leaving Lazio, there weren't many new faces at the club arriving there, as they of course had a transfer embargo this summer due to owing numerous clubs money. Maurizio Sarri was hired before the embargo was official, and you gotta wonder if he would have signed up with Lazio, again, by the way, as he was sacked just a year ago, had he known that the embargo was going to happen. Looks like it will be a tough season for Lazio, who say they are going to embrace the challenge of the transfer embargo. Not much else they can do, right? And hopefully no issues with the new Falconer. Lazio's city rivals AS Roma had a fantastic finish to their season as everyone's favorite granddad, Nonno Ranieri, turned the fortunes of the club around, bringing them from as low as 15th at one time all the way up to 5th in the table, where they finished last season. They started the season with Daniele De Rossi, then went to Ivan Juric, then to Ranieri, and the old fella, the old legend, was so good he earned himself an executive position at the club. You gotta love a story like that for a guy who played for AS Roma, supported them his whole life, was retired, but returned to turn their season around with his 3rd stint coaching them. So, Ranieri was coaching, but also actively deciding who his successor would be for this season, and he landed on Gianpiero Gasperini, the guy who had turned Atalanta into a team that is constantly in the Champions League, winning the Europa League, getting huge transfer fees for players he developed into monsters. I mean, it's a different challenge in Rome. Funnily enough, Roma's struggles to crack the top 4 or 5 places have been in part thanks to Gasperini guiding Atalanta above them so frequently. In Rome, they're looking to consistently finish higher up the table and have made some interesting moves. Leon Bailey, Evan Ferguson of Brighton, Wesley, the coveted right back from Flamengo. I mean, let's see what Gasperini can cook up with AS Roma. And as mentioned, Atalanta will be without Gianpiero Gasperini after a 9-year tenure. 9 years, my friend, that's huge in modern football. And remember what I said about coaching changes? Ivan Juric, who managed AS Roma for 2 months of last season, has taken over at Atalanta. Everything's interconnected in this league. Now, he was believed to be a bit of a disciple of Gasperini given the similar career path he took, at least in the early parts of his career, and despite him not impressing at Southampton nor at Roma, he was coveted by some Serie A fans for some of his work earlier at Torino and Hellas Verona. But coaching aside, Atalanta cashed in on Retegui already. Too bad, was hoping to see him build on last season where he got 28 goals and 9 assists across all competitions, but you know what they say. When Al Qadsiya of Saudi Arabia comes a-calling, you cannot say no. Guy was the Serie A's top scorer for the one season that he was there. Anyway, Atalanta have also spent around 120 million euros at the time of recording this video, bringing in tons of players for Juric. Oh, and Ademola Lookman is still there, despite saying he wants to leave and protesting. Isaac-esque. He was left out of their squad for the first match. Bit of an awkward one. We'll see how that goes. He's been linked to Inter, very closely to Inter. We'll see. Another team from the Lombardy region, Como 1907, is threatening to take the title of team that makes smart, inexpensive signings and then sells them for big money from Atalanta. Still working on that title, by the way. So Como's owners are actually the richest owners in all of Serie A. I did a video on that last summer detailing the history of the takeover, Fabregas as the coach, etc. Last summer was all about buying experienced old dudes, you know, with a couple of talented youngsters sprinkled in, two of which were two of the best young players in Serie A last season, Asane Diao and Nico Paz. That new outlook of signing good young players continued this summer, except for Morata, as Fabregas has proven that he knows how he wants his team to play and what profile of player he needs to pull it off. Average age of the arrivals is 24 this time, which was dragged up by old man Alvaro Morata and 29-year-old Luca Mazzatelli. Nico Paz had already shown that he is a talent to watch last season, and he continued that fine form in the opening weekend, putting everyone on notice. Sick assist and a stunning free kick. Expectations are high for Como, it's safe to say. They could finish in a European place. That is not crazy at all. There's a reason why Inter wanted Fabregas so badly, you know? This is a team that you should watch, absolutely, because something interesting is happening there. Speaking of Inter, of course, the coach that they did get was Cristian Chivu, the Romanian scrum cap wearing Inter legend. Man was there for the treble, the triplete. But anyway, he is inexperienced relatively when it comes to managing at the top level, just having 13 matches with Parma, but he is very, very familiar with Inter. He coached in the youth levels there, and there is a lot of belief in him. Succeeding Inzaghi after he abruptly left is not an easy task, just as it wasn't an easy task for Inzaghi to succeed Conte after he abruptly left Inter. So far, so good, with a nice start against Verona, 5-0, a nice assist from one of their new signings, Sucic, who they really need in the midfield, as Inter need to make their squad younger, more depth, but they are still a massive threat, all the same, a massive title threat. You don't make the Champions League final by accident, and this summer has been more active when it comes to actually splashing cash, spending money. 91 million euros spent across 5 signings, but still, it's not nothing, and they've been creative in the market. Luis Enrique from Marseille, Angion Boni from Parma, who scored, Andy Diouf from Lens, and Petar Sucic from Dinamo Zagreb. Good window. Will they get Lookman? We'll see. So AC Milan, on the other hand, have made some signings, but are having a hell of a time getting a striker in. So Santi Jimenez has been deemed as not quite all that since arriving from Feyenoord last January. Could still come good, but guy hasn't hit the ground running. Alvaro Morata continues to sail the high seas of European football. He washed ashore at Como. Jovic and Calabria both left to Greece on free transfers. Teo Hernandez said yes to Al Hilal, and of course, AC Milan's best player, in my opinion, Tijani Reinders, joined Man City. That's a lot of changes, and that's just the notable outgoing players. Ardon Jashiri, Samuele Ricci, and Luka Modric are here to take over the midfield, while they have 2 new fullbacks in Estupinian, good player, and Atakame, but no striker to speak of, as mentioned before I got sidetracked. It looked like it would be Vlahovic, it looked like it would be Boniface, but he failed his medical, and who will it be? Perhaps Conrad Harder from Sporting? I won't blame you for not knowing of this blonde-haired Sporting striker that is the name Victor Gyökeres. Well, former Sporting striker. Harder scored 13 goals in 54 appearances last season. So it would be a bit of a, you know what it would be? It'd be a bit of a Højlund to United signing, you know? Hasn't proven himself yet. A bit too early, in my opinion, but could work out, and obviously doesn't cost as much as Højlund did. This guy will be around 25 million euros. And to tie all of this together, none other than Massimiliano Allegri, Big Max in all of his jacket-throwing, pitch-side stripping glory. Honestly, a good signing for Milan, a man who is pragmatic but knows how to win in Serie A, which Milan didn't know how to do last season when they finished in 8th. No Europe, that's good for them, but starting with a loss to newly promoted Cremonese, not good. Following that loss up with the potential signing of Christopher Nkunku, I think that's good. I mean, the news just went live during this edit, but I don't know. He's not really the striker profile they've been looking for, unless this isn't the striker signing that they've been speaking about, thinking of doing. I don't know. Regardless, good player, I mean, when he's fit. Canadian propaganda, as Juventus was the team that went for the Iceman, who took the plunge on one of the more sought-after free agents this summer. Jonathan David has arrived, and he showed that his finishing is the real deal in Juve's 2-0 opening day win over Parma. And in fact, with the players that Juventus have in the attack, namely the absolutely unbelievable talent that is Kenan Yildiz, with all of the players that can find David in the box, coupled with his instincts, I think David will score a lot of goals, and this is the season where Yildiz takes over, man. But perhaps the biggest news, beyond any new signings or what have you, beyond Igor Igor Tudor getting a crack at this for real with a contract, beyond the massive amount of changes behind the scenes, is absolutely the return of someone Juve have dearly missed. And I'm not talking about Giorgio Chiellini in an executive role. I'm talking about the forever injured Gleison Bremer, former Serie A defender of the season. That is a big signing to get back, as the center back position was hurting. Juve are a team that should be in the title fight again after a couple of seasons of underperforming. I'm interested to see how Juve do. La Viola were an interesting team last season as well that did quite well, actually. They ended up in 6th place under Raffaele Palladino. Great season, I would say. We're close to making the Conference League final, but the man left due to disagreements with the sporting director Prade. Yes, yet another one of the teams that changed managers this season. Wild. Vincenzo Italiano was doing great with them. He left for Bologna. Palladino does well. He leaves. They brought back the Scudetto winning coach, formerly of Al Nassr, Stefano Pioli. Which, look, not the most exciting signing, sure, but he has shown that he can adapt to what he is given and clearly put together a decent sporting project as he did at AC Milan, right? He is capable, and it's not like Fiorentina have a bad squad. David De Gea is still there in goal, as he has performed stupendously. Moise Kean finished in 2nd in the top scorers race last season, for goodness sake. Fiorentina is a team that probably won't push into the top 4, but will make it into Europe once again, and maybe this time will hold on to their manager. Speaking of holding on to your manager, there was a moment where it seemed as though Antonio Conte was going to do the thing again. Win the Scudetto, and then immediately bounce, as he did at Inter. But after seeing the reaction from the city, how badly they wanted him, after having positive talks with De Laurentiis, he decided to stay. And no doubt, those talks surrounded recruitment, of which Napoli has had a very interesting window, haven't they? Now, I expect they'll sign another striker, maybe even Rasmus Højlund, bring the guy back to Italy and get his career straight. I mean, it wouldn't be the first former Manchester United player that Antonio Conte has managed to get the best out of. This man is the United whisperer at this point. At Inter, he had Lukaku, Ashley Young, Matteo Darmian, Alexis Sanchez. At Napoli, he took Scott McTominay and turned him into Serie A's MVP for last season. What did it take? Playing him in the right position. Not to diminish Conte's work or McTominay's, which is unmatched. Conte's, that is, and basically one of the few managers that has guaranteed success in Italy. But McTominay is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting men in Serie A, as well as incredible to watch. He looked so out of place at first, but is absolutely at home in Naples and revered, as he deserves to be, given how he has performed on the pitch. Now, Kevin De Bruyne has joined Napoli. It's all very interesting. So if Højlund joins, expect him to score 200 goals under Antonio Conte. But seriously, Napoli will have a tougher season, most likely, as they now will be playing in Europe, which they didn't do last season. So this leads to the whole league being difficult to call, right? They are seen or expected to defend their title, something Napoli has never done amongst their 4 Serie A titles, and something that no Serie A team has done since Juve stopped winning the league back-to-back in 2020, which adds to all of the excitement, right? There are so many points you can put in favor of teams and against teams in their Scudetto bid, and that's what makes it so damn fun. Anything can happen. There will be drama, there will be controversy, there will be stunning football, as Italy has absolutely moved away from the, defensive boring football allegations that have hampered them, and the product is chef's kiss. All right, guys, that was a preview of sorts to something that has already begun, but I just think more people have to watch Serie A. It's a brilliant league. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I'm Adrian, and I'll see you in another video very, very soon. Bye.